muffin here. I had a subscriber request ask me for my opinion on my top 5 worst tanks in Blitz. Now, this is completely off my opinion. I'm not going off of BlitzStars data in terms of what tanks are performing the worst. This is primarily just my opinion. So maybe different from yours, but just diving right in. Going right off, now this is not ranked in any order from like best to worst from top 5, just going off of top 5 in general. That first one that came to my mind had to have been the Valentine 2. If you look at its penetration values, it is horrible. Even using its gold rounds, when you come across a tier 6 heavy, like the VK30.01H, you look at this thing, even with gold rounds, you have no chance of penning it. Even from the rear, the side, when it's flat, nothing. And then even if you come across a tank of your own tier 4, like the DW2, same thing. Even using gold rounds, you can't pen this thing at all. This thing is absolutely useless, in my opinion. So that definitely had to, and it's slow too. So this is just, honestly, I would say probably one of the worst tanks in the game, in my opinion. The next one I would have to say is the FCM 36 Pack 40, which this thing has absolutely nothing going for it. And I think just came in the store not too long ago. This thing is terribly slow, doesn't have any armor, terrible gun arc. I mean, it's just, honestly, it has to be one of the worst, the top 5 worst in the game. The next 3, very opinion-based. I can see how players do enjoy these, but I just really don't like these ones. I would have to add the TOG 2 to the list. This thing is just terribly slow. It's really big, doesn't have a lot of armor, just a big punching bag. And the only way to really play with this thing is just drive right through the center of the map. Because if you go to completely one side of the map, and the enemy all of a sudden gets detected all on the other side of the map, it's going to take you forever to get into the battle. It is so slow. It's big. It doesn't have very much armor, and but it does have a great cannon. But honestly, it just doesn't make up for its other attributes. Next on the list, I've made a video about this one before, and it has to be the Gravedigger. And honestly, everything about this tank is great, in my opinion, except for the cannon. Has nothing to do with the armor, nothing to do with the maneuverability. Doesn't even have much gun depression, but it doesn't even need that. It's just, honestly, it's just the cannon itself. The 6-round autoloader is great on the AMX 57, but on the Gravedigger, it just does not really work because for how little damage you do per shot, your dispersion, your aimer resets and your circle gets bigger, and it's big enough to the point where if you're trying to tap it fast enough, you can actually miss and bounce quite a bit of your rounds. And it's just ridiculous at how much that aimer like resets and how big it gets with your dispersion value, because you're barely doing any damage per shot. So it's really frustrating. And if you come across, and my biggest frustration with it is if you play tier 8 and you come across other heavy tanks, you'd have to be coming across an idiot to lose, because you're like, any player that has any decent knowledge of the game knows to protect either their weak spots, go hold down. If you know a player that knows even a little bit of what they're doing, you will struggle with this thing. So the next one on the list I would have to say is the Predator. The thing about this tank is it is so tall and has 5 degrees of gun depression, and just about anything could get along the sides of you or just up close, and there's nothing you can do. 90% of this tank is almost like, here I am, hit me, and only 10% of this tank is like, okay, watch out, I have this auto-loading cannon. So just not my favorite tanks. These would have to be my top 5, in my opinion, worst tanks in the game. Let me know in the comments below what your top 5 are. I'd be very curious to know from the community. This is the Muffin here. Stay cool and keep tanking.